In the entrepreneurs section today, we're asking the question, how do we sell more with fewer resources? Joining us at the desk, Luke Mckend, country manager at Google SA. Thank you so much for joining us today, Luke. So this is different to what we were talking about earlier, because the sales team now has a budget that's given to them from corporate, and this is the other way around, where you don't really have much of a budget. You have a few pennies in your pocket, and you have to make money. Have to make money out of that.
Yeah, I think it can be a blessing and a curse. I mean, often, one of the worst things that businesses often do is they work to a budget, and that sounds counterintuitive. But the point being, to the sales, to a corporate sales manager, if their target is 50 million, but the recession or the economic climate means you're only bringing 30 million, it just has this idea that we still have this idea that we're going for 50 million, but reality says we can only do 30 million. And I think it's quite an interesting dynamic to look at how a corporate approach is selling versus how a smaller entrepreneur can do it. I mean, an entrepreneur doesn't have the pressure coming down. They want to build a business. They want to build an asset of value, but they've got limited resources. They don't have 5 or 10 or 30 people selling for them. And they've got to think very cleverly about what tools they've got out there. And I think that's one thing that you're seeing now really coming through nicely now, is using digital examples to sell your product. And you can go, they always say technology is the greatest leveler for a small business, and I think it's very true. You can see your advert, using Google as an example, your advert being served alongside Standard Bank's advert. I mean, imagine you couldn't buy a space in the magazine where your advert ran directly next to Standard Bank. But now in Google, you're able to say, all right, let's bid on a keyword, let's have something, let's get the same exposure for a budget that's negligible.
Luke, how cost effective is online marketing for entrepreneurs?
It can be incredibly cost effective. I think there are a couple of different ways to look at it, and it's interesting that you mentioned the notion of a budget. One of the problems we actually have when we speak to large clients is that they typically have a marketing budget that's set out well in advance, and that means they're actually spend as much as they have, and then it's quite possible that they'll stop. When in fact what's really happening is, with online marketing, for every rand you spend, it's quite possible that somebody will click on an ad and actually buy your product or buy your service. In other words, it's direct return on investment related to exactly the amount of money that you've spent, and you can, with that in mind, actually not set a budget, but you can spend as much as you like, as long as every rand you spend is actually generating more money. And for a small business, that's incredibly important, is how do I make the most of every rand that I spend? And that's what's so great about online marketing, is that there is that direct relationship between every rand you spend and potentially every rand you make.
Yeah, but are there any downsides though? Because you talk about your ad being out there in cyberspace. I mean, what if it just gets lost and you're not targeting the right people? You're not getting to the right clients.
The important thing to remember when you're doing, say, online marketing is to be very strategic. So you've got to decide what you want to get out of it, and then you have to tailor a program to that. And you have to keep...
Can you give us an example? Let's use an example here.
Okay, so for example, affiliate marketing. It's a method of online marketing where you can put your ad banners or your links on an affiliate or partner's website, and then their customers will click on that ad or link and be directed towards your website. But you need to choose those affiliates carefully, and you need to make sure that they're incentivized to drive traffic to your site. So if you're not being strategic about who you choose and making sure that their sort of profits and their motivations are aligned to yours,
and
then
brand
you're going
profile.
to, and brand profile, then you're going to miss out on that opportunity.
Yeah, and I think maybe just on that, so let's use the example of affiliate marketing. Essentially, you can take, for every lead, you can incentivize somebody, bring me an insurance lead, and you'll see a lot of the banners on a lot of the websites, the smaller websites, often insurance-driven ones. You can see Dial Direct, you can see OutSurance. Often they're running affiliate referral campaigns, so what happens, it drives somebody from website A through to your website, takes the captures a form which says please contact me. For everyone they'll be incentivized for 50 Rand or 100 Rand. So every lead you get pushed through, you're only paying for a lead, something that turns into business. You can also pay per transaction. So often you can look at Kalahari, for instance. Anybody in this room can go and set up a website and sell Kalahari products, and they might want to sell books, or they might want to sell DVDs or videos or whatever it is, and you can tailor what you're very interested in and earn ongoing commission from being able to sell Kalahari products. So there's quite a lot of very cool things that you can do using tech, and I think that once you're aware of the tools that are out there, you can have this entire silent sales force out there, and if they don't want to, you don't have the management issues of managing a salesman today. You basically, if the guy doesn't want to sell for you today, it doesn't work. But obviously you want to find the way to incentivize somebody that A, people actually want your product, and B, that they're going to represent your brand in the best possible light.
Okay, so tell us about some of the other, we talked about some of the products that are out there. Tell us about some of the other innovative, creative ways that entrepreneurs are using online.
Well, I think one of the most important things as an entrepreneur is to really understand what people are doing when they get to your website. If we imagine that a website is in fact your most important salesperson if you're a small business, you're not out there all the time, you simply can't be, but your website is. Really try and understand exactly what it is that people are doing when they get there. What pictures do they look at? What pages do they reach? Where do they leave your website? And perhaps why do they leave it? If you have that information at your disposal, you're going to be able to make changes that will encourage them to spend more money. And that's what you want to do. Having that data at your fingertips and being flexible and being able to change your website very quickly is what gives a small business a real advantage. And there are a bunch of tools that help small businesses support that. So if I think about Google Analytics, for instance, it's a free tool. You apply it to websites and it will give you all sorts of different bits and pieces of information. But let's think a bit more broadly for a moment. I think everybody has used YouTube, and there are a bunch of businesses that are actually using YouTube right now as a way of promoting what they're doing. So if you have a product that's incredibly visual or something that you need to show people how to use, why not just create a video, upload it, and you have a presence for free in a very visual format.
I think there was some Razor ad or something I saw that really played into that. But yeah,
King Shave.
Yeah, I think there's two examples and going across industries. So, for instance, you could look at tourism. There's the guys that do the bungee swing at the Soweto Towers. I mean, one of their marketing tools is they actually create videos of guys going through the process from when they sign in, when they're strapping, when they get the safety briefing, to when they jump. And guys go out there and say, come check out the video of me jumping off the Soweto Towers. And that's a perfect example of an advert that didn't cost you anything beyond a cell phone, to be able to record it and stick it up onto YouTube. People will share that across the board. Another example, I mean, one of the asset managers, he often comes up on the show here. They recorded their morning market call on a cell phone. I mean, their biggest budgetary constraint was finding something to stand that phone on so that they could record the show. I mean, and that means there's no fancy TV crews or that kind of thing. It's simply being able to do it on a smartphone, be able to share it with their customers, and you can use it whether it's financial services, tourism. You could do it for wine. We did food earlier. I mean, there are lots of very cool ways that you could use something like YouTube.
Sorry if I could come in there. There's a wonderful example of a guy who actually started a business on YouTube. He didn't actually have a website at all, called Six Pack Factory. It's a man who does a lot of exercises and literally posted videos of him and his furniture, using his furniture as exercise tools.
Okay, so we're going to get everyone to go to that. That was called Six Pack
Factory.
Six Pack Factory. Go to that and YouTube that, and you can get some inspiration if you're an entrepreneur. Very big thank you to Luke Mckend from Google South Africa, and Jessica Hubbard from FinWeek, and of course Mark Ashton, my co-host, the editor of FinWeek. That's all from this edition of FinWeek Money Matters. We'll see you again next week, same time, same place.